Hello, friends. So today I want to do some coaching on the fear of life repeating itself, the fear that challenges from the past will present themselves again. I hear this in a lot of my clients saying things like, I never want to go broke again because that was such a horrible experience, or I want to make sure that I never feel depression again because that was so awful, or I want to make sure that I never get broken up with again. And that fear of the past repeating itself has them live from this very fear-based, resistant place. And today I want to talk about how to overcome that and how to transform it and be able to look at the challenges that you've experienced in the past from a different perspective so that you're not living in fear and resistance, and instead you're living in allowance and the knowingness that if that lesson does present itself again, that you will be willing and able to handle it differently. So whenever we're afraid that life is going to repeat itself and going to present us with a challenging circumstance like it has in the past, the first thing that it is very, very important to understand is that we are not actually afraid of that circumstance presenting itself again. We are afraid that we will react to that circumstance in the same way that we reacted to that circumstance in the past. Because remember, you are not your circumstance. You are not anything that has ever happened to you in your life. You are the witness to that, and you are the freedom to choose how to be in response to everything that ever happens to you. So if you have gone broke in the past and you're terrified of that happening again, understand that it is not the going broke that you're actually afraid of. It is that you're afraid that you will react to going broke in the very same way that you reacted to going broke in the past. If you're terrified that you are going to be alone again, or you are going to get broken up with again, understand that it is not the aloneness that you are truly afraid of. You are afraid that you will respond in the same way to the aloneness as you responded in the past. For example, if you got broken up with in the past and you responded by abandoning yourself and by ceasing to be compassionate and ceasing to hold yourself in that loving spaciousness, then of course you're going to be terrified of getting broken up with and being alone again, because your brain thinks that aloneness necessitates you abandoning yourself. So what there is to piece apart there is that the aloneness never necessarily meant you abandoning yourself. That you are the one that associated those two. And because you are the one that associated those two, you also can be the one that has the power to disconnect those two from each other and choose another response and choose another way of being in response to that situation. The second really important thing to understand is that whenever we are focused on something that we don't want, it's like we have a megaphone and we are telling the universe to serve that to us on a silver platter. Because whatever we focus on is what we're telling the universe we want. So if we're focused on don't go broke, 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 really where we're putting our attention is on brokenness. We're putting our attention on scarcity by putting our attention on the fear that we have about scarcity. And whatever you put your attention on grows. Where energy flows, attention goes, and energy expands, right? So if you're terrified of being broke, that's you telling the universe that you would like to be broke. If you're terrified of being alone, that is you telling the universe that you would like to be alone. If you are terrified of being depressed, that is you telling the universe that you would like to be depressed. And this is for a couple of reasons. Primarily, this is because whenever we have not digested and understood a lesson, one of our life's lessons, the universe is going to keep looking for opportunities to give us that lesson again and again and again until we have passed the exam, so to speak. It's just like if you fail calculus, you're going to have to take calculus over again and again and again until you actually are willing to assimilate that information. So if you went broke in the past, or got broken up with in the past, or entered a state of depression in the past, and you reacted to that external circumstance, and I say external because remember, we are not the conditions of our life. We are not our emotions. We are not our thoughts. We are not what happens to us, okay? So if you reacted to that external circumstance by giving that circumstance power over you and living in reaction to that circumstance, that means that you have not passed that lesson. You have not passed that test that life gave you as an opportunity for you to grow and as an opportunity for you to strengthen ways of being that are going to serve you. So life is going to deliver that lesson to you again as an opportunity for you to get to expand. And it's going to keep delivering that lesson to you over and over and over again until you are willing to respond differently, right? The definition of insanity is when we do the same thing over and over again and expect different results. So rather than being afraid of a challenging circumstance resurfacing in our life, we can actually get excited about it because we can understand that if that challenging circumstance does resurface in our life, it is simply an opportunity for us to get to choose differently in reaction to that. And if we don't ever get that circumstance presenting itself to us again, then we never have that beautiful opportunity to choose a different way of being. And when we understand that it's not actually the circumstance that we're afraid of, but that we're afraid that we once again are going to give power to that circumstance outside of ourselves, then we realize that there's nothing to be afraid of. The circumstance can come as many times as it needs to come, and all we need to know is that we are no longer going to give that circumstance significance. We're not going to give it power. We're not going to make it mean anything about us, and we're not going to let it infringe upon our ability to choose who we want to be in reaction to that circumstance. So really take a look at what are the things that you're most afraid of happening. Likely these are things that have already happened to you in your life. It's kind of like in psychology, there's this thing called taste aversion. And taste aversion is when, let's say you ate a bowl of Cheerios, and then after you ate that bowl of Cheerios, you got the flu. In your brain, you are going to wrongly associate the Cheerios with the flu, and you're going to have taste aversion. You're not going to want to eat Cheerios again because you think that it was the Cheerios that gave you the flu. In the same way, if you got broken up with in the past and then you abandoned yourself in response to getting broken up with, you are going to associate the getting broken up with you abandoning yourself. But what you need to understand is that the Cheerios didn't give you the flu. The getting broken up with did not force you to abandon yourself. You freely chose to abandon yourself in response to the unconnected circumstance of you getting broken up with. And when you get that, then you're free to eat Cheerios for the rest of your life because you understand that Cheerios are not going to give you the flu, right? Hopefully this metaphor is still holding up. Or in other words, you're free to really give in to love and open yourself to the vulnerability of love because you understand that if you get broken up with, that is not going to necessitate you abandoning yourself. That is not going to necessitate your powerlessness because you get to choose to be powerful in the face of every opportunity. And in fact, when life delivers us really challenging circumstances, that is that's just so good. It's so very good because it's like life delivering us weights to lift, life delivering us a gym membership so that we can go use that resistance to get stronger and stronger. And if we just flatline life and we don't have challenges happen to us, then we don't get to experience the resistance and we don't get to strengthen these ways of being. We don't get to grow into being more of who we want to be. So when we come from the perspective that everything in life happens for us rather than to us, then we can be grateful for every challenge that we encounter because we recognize that it's just an alarm clock going off, asking us to choose a powerful way of being in response to that challenge. And we can be grateful when circumstances represent themselves because it's like we get another chance to take that calculus class. And although it may not seem like it, we actually do really want to learn calculus, so to speak, right? We actually do really want to learn how to be self-loving in the face of challenges. We actually do want to learn how to be forgiving in the face of getting abandoned. We actually do want to learn how to disconnect ourselves from identification with that which is outside of ourselves. And every time some circumstance that occurs to us as failure comes along, like every time we get broken up with, or every time we go broke, or every time we go through depression or anything like that, That is the universe asking us to remember that none of those circumstances were us. And that is the universe presenting an opportunity to us to reclaim power from something outside of ourselves that we had mistakenly identified with. It's the universe saying, hey, I'm going to make you go broke so that you can understand that who you are is not your money, that who you are is not your successes, that who you are is not numbers on a sheet. Or I'm going to take away from you that which you love most in the world so that you can understand that you are not those attachments, that you are a sovereign being, and that you are not anything that has come into your life, because everything is temporary. So when we understand that it's not actually the things in the past that caused us the suffering, but it's how we chose to respond in reaction to those things that happened in the past, then we no longer need to live in fear and resistance. And when we no longer are living in fear and resistance, then the universe is like, oh, they understood the lesson. Oh, fantastic. They passed. They passed the calculus class, so I'm not going to make them take the calculus class again. And so counterintuitively, it actually makes those circumstances less likely to repeat themselves, because the universe is like, all right, cool, you passed that test. I don't need to serve you that difficulty on a silver platter again, because I know that you don't need that opportunity for growth because you've already understood it. So let go of all of that fear that you have about a challenging circumstance from the past representing it or presenting itself again, and understand that if it does present itself again, you have the opportunity to choose a different way of being in reaction to that. And then it's actually a beautiful opportunity for you to get to witness how much you have grown as a person and how much more free you are now to choose a different way of being in response to that circumstance. And understand that all that fear is just coming from you reacting to something that's not actually happening right now. You reacting to a past that doesn't actually exist. The past only exists in our story about it, in our brains. And so when we're afraid of something happening in the future, that's just our brains projecting the past into the future. And neither of those exist. The past doesn't exist and the future doesn't exist. It's a blank canvas. So give yourself permission to show up differently in the face of these challenges that keep presenting themselves again, and really look for what way of being would be the biggest growth opportunity for me in this situation. And how can I choose that way of being and let go of my attachment to my past and how I have been in the past. So hopefully that was helpful for you all. Just got a question, how do I pass the getting broken up with test? So understand that it has nothing to do with the other person. That whatever you're feeling inside of yourself has nothing to do with their leaving you or abandoning you. And it has everything to do with how you think of yourself and how well you love yourself and how well you hold space for yourself in this situation. So look to see, what way of being could I be with myself? And how is this happening for me? How is this breakup happening in service of my growth? How is it happening as an opportunity for me to practice being more self-loving, being more compassionate, being more forgiving, being more understanding? And how is this happening as an opportunity for me to disidentify from that which my ego previously thought that I was? The ego is so quick to latch onto and identify with another person and identify with the validation that they are or aren't giving you. And when they take that validation away, it's a beautiful opportunity for you to reclaim power from what other people think of you, and for you to reclaim power from your attachment to that person. So understand that this breakup is happening for you. It's happening in service of your growth, and just look for, what way of being could I embody during this time that would be most generous with myself and that would be the biggest growth opportunity for me. All right. Thanks y'all for tuning in. Message me if you have any questions on all of this, and I will see you next time. Bye.